Are we in a new golden age for fantasy television?
What a time to be alive.
IMDB unveiled its list of the most popular shows on television in 2022, with 3 fantasy or fantasy-adjacent shows landing in the top 5. According to IMDb's list, Stranger Things and House of the Dragon were the 2 most popular shows on television this year, with Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power also landing in the top 5. The Sandman, a comic book series heavily inspired by fantasy themes and based on a comic written by fantasy author Neil Gaiman, also landed in the top 10. It's been just over a decade since Game of Thrones launched on HBO, ushering in what's been a new golden age for fantasy television. While there were many fantasy shows that predated Game of Thrones, HBO showed that not only could fantasy be done well, it could also dominate the cultural zeitgeist, ratings, and awards. Since then, every streamer, every prestige network has tried to find its own Game of Thrones. However, it really wasn't until the last few years that all the interest in fantasy really started to pay off. Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, and a noted fantasy fan, went all in on Lord of the Rings: Ring of Powers. He paid a ton of money for the rights to the show and spent even more money to produce and make it. Prime Video also spent a ton of money on The Wheel of Time and Carnival Row, and it also gave Critical Role's animated series The Legend of Vox Machina a streaming home. Netflix has also been a big fantasy supporter for years, as genre entertainment has been a great way to build buzz and bring in new subscribers. Not only is Netflix the streaming home to popular fantasy franchises like Supernatural, The Magicians, and Merlin, it also has a deep roster of self-produced fantasy hits that all seem to hit its stride in the last year. In addition to The Witcher, which Netflix hoped would be a cornerstone franchise until Henry Cavill left the show and its various spin-offs sputtered, Netflix has Shadow and Bone, a Dragon Age cartoon, The Dragon Prince, Arcane, Lock and Key, The Sandman, and its surprise hit Wednesday, which almost certainly seems destined for a second season. And that's not even including Stranger Things, which resurrected Kate Bush's, her popularity just by playing part of one song on one episode. Everyone has listened to Running Up That Hill like a billion times this summer.
Would you like to join them?
HBO has also tried to resurrect its premier fantasy franchise, with the network pumping in a ton of effort into testing various Game of Thrones spin-offs. It landed on House of the Dragon, which somewhat surprisingly showed that Game of Thrones' poorly received final season didn't hurt the franchise whatsoever. It has more spin-offs on the way. We're getting a new Jon Snow show coming up in the next couple of years. And we've barely even talked about Willow, which is Disney's attempt at getting into the fantasy franchise. To give you an idea of just how wildly popular fantasy has become, here's what we could see in 2023. We could have a year where we get Legend of Vox Machina Season 2, Wheel of Time Season 2, The Witcher Season 3, Goodbye Henry Cavill, We Miss You Already, House of the Dragon Season 2, Spiderwick Chronicles, Percy Jackson, and that's not even counting the Jon Snow Game of Thrones spinoff, the Tales of Duncan Egg Game of Thrones spinoff, or the D&D TV show, which are all waiting in the wings and could be coming out as early as 2024. And fantasy is coming for the box office too. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves is hoping to become a big blockbuster franchise. Critical Role is selling out of theaters for special events like the Mighty Nine Reunited, and one could even make an argument that the Super Mario movie is a fantasy movie. It's basically an isekai adventure with talking mushrooms, ghosts, and dragon turtles, or whatever King Koopa is.
Not sure if you know who I am.
And, if we look to Japan, fantasy is a major anime genre. Demon Slayer, Black Clover, Ancient Magus Bride, those are just a couple of the confirmed fantasy series that are coming out next year.
It's called anime, and it's an art form.
While fantasy television is currently dominating popularity lists, ratings, and probably award shows next year, it could only grow bigger in the next few years. Hasbro will have a Dungeons & Dragons television show coming up either in 2023 or 2024. Netflix wants to make a Narnia series and is also trying to make a good live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender show. Good luck with that. Apple is making a Time Bandit show. And heck, we haven't even had a calendar year where The Witcher, Lord of the Rings, House of the Dragon, and Wheel of Time have all aired. There's a decent chance that in the not too distant future, we won't go a week without having some premium, high quality fantasy show air a new episode. There is so much good fantasy out right now, we haven't even touched on some of the great fantasy adjacent stuff, like What We Do in the Shadows, which is another award-winning show which has fantasy themes.
This is the way we talk in Tucson, Arizona.
At this point, the only question really is too much good fantasy TV a bad thing? We'll discuss that in a future video. So, what's your favorite fantasy TV show of 2022? Let us know in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe to The Character Sheet.